In a world that often measures success by volume, we're pausing to listen for something quieter, the values that shape how people really live, lead, and love. This is Talk with Tia, conversations with everyday people living what matters most. Extraordinary lives, everyday values. Welcome to my pilot episode of Talk with Tia, Extraordinary Lives, Everyday Values. When we think about success, most of us picture the obvious things: a long career, a leadership role, a large income, the kind of work that demands focus and consistency. Judy Pehrson built that kind of life. She spent decades at GE, leading with discipline and precision, often starting her days long before the sunrise. She knows what it means to carry responsibility and to deliver steadily and over time. But life doesn't always measure us by our careers. Give it a listen. Hi, this is Talk with Tia, and I'm here with my very first guest, and I'm very excited. This is Judy Pehrson, and she's coming from us in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And what does the weather look like there today, Judy?
Winter. We still have winter. So it's like 20 degrees and cold.
Yeah. I mean, at least
could be worse.
It could be worse, especially like my girlfriend out in Rhode Island. Wow. Like lost power, not like one of the biggest blizzards they've had in like 40 years.
Yes, we're blessed for that. So we're all good. And we always have sunshine here. So even if it's below zero, when you look out the window, you do see sun. That makes a big difference.
You do. I lived there for a short time, and you do. But sometimes it's a little deceiving. Think, it's going to be warmer, but it's not.
Exactly.
Well, before we talk about anything heavy or deep or get into more kind of the dynamics of values-driven lives, I guess if you had to talk about Judy in an everyday week, like just tell our listeners and our viewers what a day in the life at the beginning of the week or every day of the week looks like for you.
Well, now that I've been retired for 4 years, day in the week is I get up at 5 and I always go to Orange Theory every morning. And then when I get home, I get my 18-year-old son off to school. He's just goes to school and work, but because he graduated last year. And then I do whatever I want to do. I volunteer on Thursdays at the church for a grief group, and I take care of my mom a little bit. I take her to all her doctor. She's almost 89. I take to her doctor appointments and things like that. But other than that, I babysit my grandson once a week. He's 18 months. But
wow. So your
a lot of different things. Yeah.
And when did you retire officially?
4 years ago.
How was that transition? I mean, maybe give us a little background of what you did and what your career was like.
Yeah, I worked for General Electric, and I was in their senior leadership, and I started out in San Francisco, got transferred to Minneapolis. I was a region manager in San Francisco, and covered half the U.S. with sales reps and things like that. And then I moved to Minneapolis to manage the Target account, and that's where I retired. So It was a great career, very stressful, lots of long hours, and a lot of numbers and quotas and things that you did have to meet. It wasn't like, I can't make it. It's like, how will you make it kind of a thing. But
exactly.
But
I
think
you weren't a Minnesota girl. You're not a natural.
I was born and raised in Minnesota, and then I was in California 22 years, San Francisco, and then I came back to Minnesota.
So that must have been a change, just the weather and the lifestyle and everything being a little bit different.
Yeah, I didn't ask to come back. I came, they asked me to come back to manage the account that was headquartered here. So my son was a senior in high school, and my other one was in 7th grade, and they did not quite think this was that. They loved their family that was here, but they did not like the weather.
Wow,
they thought they were freezing. So
exactly.
Very different life.
No, that would be hard. So wait, so one was in 7th grade and one was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not an easy time to move kids. I've done that. I've done similar ages, and
that's hard. Very hard.
So when you think about those times, and you think about moving back to Minnesota, starting, still kind of in the midst of your career now, then 22 years in Minnesota, what kinds of value choices did you have to make at that point in your life, do you think, when you made that move or just decided to move across the country? I imagine at that point, were you married and had a partner?
Yeah, it was, in a way, it was a tough choice, but my husband and I both agreed that it was a good choice because California's so expensive to live in, San Francisco is, and we thought if we want our kids to live anywhere near us, Minnesota might be a better place. Or my parents were getting older. They lived here. So did all my siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles. So we thought, and GE had a great promotion for me. And then they also offered my husband a job there in the division that he happened to be in with another company. So really, we both had jobs here, sold our house in one day, and found a house right near my headquarters, where my office was. So my kids seemed excited because all their cousins lived here, and we came back twice a year. So they kind of acted like they were coming home in a way.
Yeah.
But once we moved here, they kind of started in with the mom, did you talk to your boss? Could we move back? Because I think they realized not quite the same as it would have been if they, I think it's always was fun when we came because we came for a week and it was like everyone's together and, like it was a big party. But then all of a sudden we're living here and then they don't have their friends. And I was busy working and I think they just kind of, the balloon popped and they didn't love it, but anyway, it took a while, but we were all good.
Right. It's just a transition. And it's so interesting because in my work, transitionary times are big times for like value alignment. And oftentimes values, the values are fairly static, but they make these transitionary, there's transitionary moments when values change. And oftentimes a big move is one of them. So when you moved and you began servicing your target account and building your career, did you feel like you had some value shifts? I mean, because now you were spending more time with family and now you were, focusing, do you remember any of that time?
I do. And I think a lot, once I moved here, it seemed like my life completely shifted. It almost, so when people would say, how do you like Minnesota? It's like, well, you'd have to add all these life changes. But my kids, my one son was a senior, one was in 7th grade. And then I ended up adopting a family foster baby within about a year of being here because he was living in a horrible situation, 11 months old, and needed a temporary situation. So I added him on. My husband had some severe alcohol problems that were getting worse. The good news about moving here is I didn't travel as much, so I could address those and kind of be more present in the family. But it was just kind of a whirlwind of a lot of stuff. But
then there's a lot more pressure on you as well. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on you because you're working full time, dealing with a husband that was sick with alcoholism, and then have a baby, and your youngest is what, 13 or 14?
Yeah,
at the time?
and then the other one was 18, and it was a lot. And even the dog, like the dog was used to a dog door and beautiful weather, and all of a sudden you have to teach it to go outside, inside, outside. I mean, there was nothing about it that was fun, to be honest.
No, it's a lot of transition.
Nothing.
So if you could think about, based upon just recalling some of these big transitions, and we'll get into more of them, whether or not you have your own definition of what personal values like mean to you.
Yes, I think I had to make sure that I remained positive. I remained on schedule. I still felt like it was really important for the kids to see that I was in for them. I was in for me. I was in for going to church. I was just in for life. So because I think it's easy to get wrapped up in your own thing and kind of leave them sort of hanging out, on a string on the side. Yeah. But I'd say the most important thing ever to me was always my children, even though I worked many, many, many hours. I would get up at 2:30, 3, 4 in the morning or take red eyes home versus being an extra night just so that I could be present as much as possible, even though I did have a job that didn't make you present all the time. So I just felt like that was always my most important thing. Same with, working and also working hard, showing up, just really doing a good job, that was kind of what I tried to, and hope when I die that the kids will always see that I did.
Oh, and that's amazing because that's a lot of times what we do with like people when we're talking about value alignment, and we're not actually doing like the business style activities that we do with my company to see where they stand with their values and what's blocking them from that. But it's really value alignment and how do you get through the day, and I know you because you are a good friend of my sister, and we've had some conversations in the past. But things they were already complicated because you were really kind of the main support of the family, keeping consistency. It sounds like it was very important, and keeping faith, and knowing that they were important to you, and so love, I imagine, and also, like you said, you had to show up, and you had this account, so you couldn't just say, "Oh, I have family things," and also you were working in a time where how many women were on your team that you were working with?
I was in a men's world pretty much my whole career. There were always a few women, but it was a lot of men, and so you can't be acting like the mom because they don't get that, and
No.
they, which I never did. I mean, I didn't, and I never pulled the mom card. I didn't.
No.
I just never needed to because it it just it didn't really matter to me. I knew what I needed to do at home, and I just found a time to do it and place to do it, and be present for work and hit all the metrics there. So that wasn't hard for me because I think that's what I always did. But I think the hard part was probably when, just as time went on, we had to transition my husband out of the home, just because it was getting too disruptive, and then I was really the only person, but weird as it sounded, almost seemed calmer, and just let the kids know that we're safe. I'm here for you. We're going to be okay. And you're going to go to school. I'm going to go to work, and we're going to all be okay. And so, and then the baby would go to Gillette's therapy every morning, and then daycare. And I feel like it was a schedule that I think schedules are probably better for kids because they don't feel as like what's going on.
I mean, schedules are good for adults too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Wow.
So I think that was all good.
What was
Gillette Children's is for kids that have cerebral palsy, and they have he had cerebral palsy and seizure disorder, as well as issues with his cognitive development. So they have different divisions for all that, and it's an amazing place. They helped him. They didn't know if he'd ever walk, talk. Like they were very concerned. He had detachment disorder. They didn't think he would really be very productive adult. So I think early on, I just thought, well, I have to find a way to make him be the best human he can be. I don't know what that looks like. That might just be somebody who's not doing a lot. But I really took on that challenge in my head to be the very best. And those doctors were amazing.
How do you think? I guess like that, you make it sound easy. And I've often talked to you about some other challenges before. But how do you think in the moment you can be mindful enough to not worry about what ifs and what will it be and how am I going to handle it if he can't integrate with other students or children, or what if he's not going to be able to have the same relationship with his siblings? I mean, how do you stay in the moment? Because that's something that I really grounded my model in, is to be present and to open up and to do what matters.
I think that plus what happened to me a couple years later really was more not looking too far ahead. I think I really tried to be in the moment and what's going on today, what's going on this week. Because if I look too far out, it'd be like, holy crap, this is going to be, you could just start thinking things that, first of all, aren't likely going to happen. It's probably something else that's going to knock you over the head. But so I really, while I was taking him to that every morning, dropping him off at daycare, running to work and doing stuff, I didn't try to look that far ahead. And I think that helped me a lot with stress, and it helped me a lot with being able to think clearer and do my job as well as parent.
And you model that behavior, and I think when you're a parent or you're a leader in the workplace, did you often also verbalize that? Like if your teenagers or some of your subordinates were struggling with, because I think that's the biggest issue, is I think a lot of times in the workplace, the employer doesn't understand. I think a light was shined on that during the pandemic, that we often are crossing that threshold into work, but we don't just leave ourselves. It's our whole self. So you're taking them. So were you able to translate that, or do you think you just modeled that and that's how the people?
I think I modeled it more than I never talked a lot about my personal life. So I don't think a lot of the people at GE knew what was really going on in my personal life. A lot of them didn't even know I'd taken on the baby until one day I'd been on I used to get on conference calls. They knew I was like the first one in, so they're an hour ahead, but we'd get on calls and they would say, I remember a couple of them were saying, did I just hear a baby? But it's like 6 a.m. I can't bring him to daycare. So, and I said, yeah, what? A baby? I mean, and then my account one time, Target, we were at a premiere of a movie, and I had invited all the Target people, and I was a couple minutes late, and I said, I had to get a babysitter, and they're like, what? And I said, oh, long story, long story.
Oh my gosh.
So I really didn't tell people because, again, I worked with men. I don't think they want to hear, oh my gosh, it's been a tough week.
Yeah,
I just,
no.
and I didn't ever feel the need to, that didn't help me.
Right. It wasn't
So,
advancing you. I
and it
know.
also didn't make me feel better. So I just did what I needed to do, and then did my work.
Do you think that's just an ability to compartmentalize? Is that, I mean, I don't know that that's related to, to values but are you able, like, okay, right now, I think that maybe you answered it, and it really is just about living in the moment. And that's what you did as much as possible.
Yeah.
But life didn't stop. I mean, crisis didn't stop for you because you had others that came along and continued to have a career while this was all happening.
I think I really don't know why or how, but I can, put something away while I'm doing something. So the next step obviously is that we were at Christmas vacation, and my oldest son was a senior in college. The other one was a freshman in college, and the little one now is in kindergarten. And the oldest one got hit by a car and killed as we were a first day on vacation. And the older two were running across from the hotel to this mini market, and he got killed. And it was just, like our whole life really changed from that moment on. Totally. Like there's nothing about my life that is the same as then. And so I think I was able to exist for a couple different reasons, but I think when I'd go off to work, I would set that almost on the shelf, and as I would drive home, it would come back. I don't know how I did that, but I think that helped me to be able to at least be able to work and to be able to function. And I didn't, just same with my husband's situation. I didn't think about it during the day until I'm driving home from work. So I was able to, I think, function that way, but also, again, not looking too far ahead, just thinking, I got to get up, I got to get through this day. I don't have to think any farther than that. So
That's amazing
I think
to
those
me
two
too,
things
because
help me.
I mean, that's amazing to me, but just because before I built my own mindfulness-based model that's, built in values and unconscious bias, what I was most interested in was studying this one particular mindfulness model called acceptance and commitment therapy or training when they brought it to the workplace. And it was really about how an individual can hold these pains and these sufferings. And it was actually kind of a next generation of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called ACT. And that's exactly what they say. It's like, okay, I have these issues. How do I keep them on my lap and not in front of my face and pursue other values in my life? And it seems like that's what you're saying. You know what I mean? When you had that time, probably the shower in the car, when you're by yourself, the grief must be there. But then,
it's really there. And maybe it's even more because you're just like, it's coming back and it's there. So it would be, I think the shower was, I didn't mention that. The shower was probably where I would bawl my eyes out. And then, but at the same time, it doesn't do any good to just sit. Not that you can control what's good and what isn't good. Doesn't do any good to just do that. So I know. Depends what stage you are in grief too. Like at the very initial stages, it's just completely a blur. As you get farther along, the people that get sort of stuck in grief that I deal with are more people that it's a couple years in and they still aren't able to really function, or they still aren't able to get up and be themselves or whatever. And you're never going to be the same, but just live or find some joy or find some little glimmers of happiness or hope. I think those are the people that I always feel like need the most support.
Yeah.
But I think setting it on the shelf is so cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know why I can do it, but I can.
I mean, to do it naturally, I think that's the great, it's a gift, or it's something really, you're very mindful and you've worked on that. And even getting up every day at 5:30 and having those routines and working out. I mean, you're mindful of how to keep your mind and your body into a place, which is truly amazing. And I know that's why you've been able to help others. And before we talk about, I know that you do some grief counseling. I'm really interested, and I think people listening would be really interested as well, of how you got involved with that and why you're doing that still today. But when this accident first happened, how much time in your life did you give yourself? Because you have a 5-year-old and you have a 17 or a
Oh
freshman,
no, he's
a
a freshman in
19.
college. Yeah,
So you have a 19-year-old, and the 5-year-old just understands grief in a different way. Just
yeah,
doesn't want his mom to be sad and his brother
that's
to be
it.
sad, and then wonders where his other big brother is. But how did you do that? Like how did you go to work? Like how much time? I know it sounds crazy, but for people out there who are dealing with grief and whichever way it's coming, whether
Yeah.
it's losing a partner, a divorce, a sick child, like what's the time frame? Because there isn't really a time frame for grieving. But when you
No.
work, well, how do you do it? So what did you do when it came to your job? Like how much time did you take off? I mean, what was that like?
Well, they gave me as much time as I needed, but there's no one on the bench to do your job. So it started within a couple of weeks, I think, at the most. Them
Wow.
saying, could you just get on this one call? Could you just do this? And truthfully, you can't just sit there and wallow all day. I mean, at some
No.
point, it's so painful that it almost would be a distraction to go do
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
I think the first, what we once he died, as soon as possible, and we could figure out how to get his body back and all that. We came back home, and then we had planned his service. And then after that, I went back. The people at work and the people at Target that and we were involved in this Chip Ganassi racing. All those people were so very, 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 very kind, and as well as my family was. I think the hardest thing is they haven't lived it, so they're being kind. It's wonderful, but I think um, unless you've already had it, you just don't get
No.
it. And
No.
I remember thinking I got it until it happened to me, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't really there for some of the people that had
Yeah.
friends who had lost children or lost like somebody, kind of especially out of order death. And but it's great they don't get it. They shouldn't get
Yeah.
it. It's a
Yeah.
bad club to be in. But
No.
but I do think that it did help me to just have some other distractions. When I look back, I mean, I think it was stuffing the grief a little bit and making it take a little longer to get better. But I knew I had to get better for the boys. I knew I had to get better to support the family. So those were reasons I just got up every day. I didn't look too far ahead, and I just thought, I can't believe. I remember thinking, I can't believe he's really dead. Like, how could this really have happened? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I as I'm thinking that, I'd set that aside and I would try to just model today for me and for the kids. Because the little 5-year-old just, all he did is look to see if I was sad. And if I was sad, it hurt his day. And the
Yeah.
19-year-old, because he was with his brother, was dealing with lots of post traumatic stress. And I knew if I couldn't get better, he would probably end up gone
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so I feel like that gave me motivation to find a way to find joy again, to find hope again, and all that. So that really drove me.
And that's
But
and
it
that's
also helped me
that's
at my
really,
job.
yeah. I mean, you proceeded with your job. You do.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the whole part of living. And most people, I always said that I wanted to kind of create this happiness and productivity solution because I didn't really necessarily want people to always have to suffer. You already had that state of mind. I think that's what's amazing. But then, I mean, maybe amazing because at least you had some of that armor. But you also went to some grief counseling yourself, right? And that's where you even probably developed more skills. Did you do that right
Yeah,
away?
right away. I just we were so fortunate that when he died and I was in the back of the police car, they were saying, do you want to have us bring, what religion are you? Do you want us to bring someone to you? And they have police officers that will help you. And I remember thinking, are you kidding me? Like my son just died. And I was just almost wanted to tell him to go F himself. Like I was
Yeah,
just
like just go
so,
away.
but something told me to have him come, and he was like an angel. He came and he helped me, and he helped my the 5-year-old was sleeping because it was at night, but he helped me and he helped my freshman in college so much. He just
Wow.
really talked to us for hours and helped. I think he just was like the first like angel that came into our lives. And then my sister found a place for us to have a service for my son at a church, and we didn't even know the church, but he that church again. That's where I now. I've been going there ever since. They opened their doors to us and had this beautiful service for us, even though they didn't even know who we were. And ever
Amazing.
since then, they're an outward reaching church, and they were just crazy helpful. they were worried about me, worried about my kids, wanting to invite us to things. And they told me to go to their grief group. But I did. And I could, that's the one I now work, support. But I also, it wasn't enough. I needed to keep, I went to about 5 or 6 grief groups. I just kept
Wow.
thinking, well, when am I going to feel better? And I was seeking somebody that would tell me I'd feel better, until I realized you're never going to feel better. You're never going to be the same. And that took a while, but I kept seeking it. So I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to feel better, because that's just sort of what you do.
Yeah, no,
And
you're waiting. There's going to be this
yeah,
point where it's just gone, the pain.
it's like,
No.
I know there's a way. Like I'm not myself, but I know I will be. And anyway, it all unfolded the way it needs to unfold. You're not the same, and that's good, because you know what? I think you see life so much better, deeper, more meaningful. Things don't mean as much. People do. You realize how precious life is. That you or I could be dead tomorrow. It's not just the old people that are sick that are going to die. I mean,
No.
life is very, very precious. And I think, and I've just have more empathy for others, that there would have been no way probably to have it had I not gone through this. I just don't think you can get it through school, through
No. No.
church. It's just, you get it by living it. So I think a lot of those things have made me just much more hopeful and grateful, and find more
That's
joy.
It's so interesting too, because I think I maybe told you about this book, but it's called Solve for Happy, and it's this guy, he worked for Google, and he brought kind of the internet to Indonesia, and he had more money than anything before the age of 30, and he started to feel as if these material possessions weren't bringing him happiness, and he ended up getting a divorce, and things were kind of falling apart. But it looked like on the outside, on the
Had
outsiders,
the American
he had
dream.
everything, right? Yeah, everything. Happiness means money and kind of personal
Yeah.
success. But then his 21-year-old son died, and he couldn't get out of bed. He was that same thing you talked about, and as being like a coder, and being someone who was solving problems through kind of computer technology, he then wrote a book, and it was called Solve for Happy. So he needed to write an equation. And I listened to a pot, and his book's amazing, and his equation is, he really had to learn about taking things away from his life and find that point where he remembers being happy, because happiness was never going to be the same, now
No.
that he had lost his son. But he's been
Yeah.
asked now, because he goes on speaking tours, and would he change his life? Would he bring his son back? And he said that, I think what he said is, I'm not sure that I would. I mean, I think that's an awful thing it's an awful thing it's a great thing
Yeah.
to contemplate. Would he come back? But he, in his death, he also learned so much, kind of almost what you said. I mean, it was just an interesting, it's an interesting
so true.
parallel. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't even know you can't describe it, but you are a different human. You see it differently, and it sounds so like whatever, but it's true. You see things so differently. You see that, you see life so much deeper, and I think you also never, ever, ever, ever want to forget that human. And people quit saying their name quickly after they die, because we're not used to death in the United States, and so once someone dies, you can't bring it up, because it's awkward if you
Yeah.
wait. So I think you don't, as a parent, or probably as a sibling, you don't want to lose them, because he was the funniest, greatest kid. So I think I also do a lot of this for him.
Yeah, because he's
So
still living within you.
yeah,
Exactly. So when you retired and you're starting this next phase of your life, and now your
Yeah.
18-year-old, your son with cerebral palsy, he's doing well. Like
Yeah.
he's all of the predictions didn't matter. Moment to moment, he's living a very normal life, right?
he really is, and which is such a blessing. A lot of surgeries, a lot of help, a lot of mentors in his life, a lot of people that just have been amazing for us. But he is living a great life, and I think all the struggles that happened to our family made him and my other son so much more empathetic, and so much more grateful and hopeful, just for life, and how precious it is, that I think I wouldn't want that for any child. But at the same time, I think that they are really good people because of it. So
Yeah.
there is a silver lining. Sad you have to have it, but they're seeing life in a way that I didn't see till it happened to me,
Right. And
much
I
later.
think, no, I mean, in an amazing way. I mean, you had the outside tools right away, but
Yeah,
you chose to use them and not to kind
yeah,
of fold and die yourself, which is
yeah.
a pretty amazing thing. I guess that's not to keep you here all day. For those of us or those professionals out there, or just anybody, and especially those professionals that are trying to, pay their mortgage and get to work every day and still be a good leader, what would, if you had to encapsulate it and you had to encapsulate, just different sufferings that people go through, what would be the final bit of advice you would leave us with today, if there is one?
I think at the end of the day, life is short, and you really have to be true to yourself. But true to yourself can't, is, being a good worker, or being a good mother, being a good maybe daughter, or being a good whatever. So I don't know. I feel like if I died tonight, that I've always been good to the people who worked for me. I've always been fair to my company and to my customers, and I've hopefully been a good role model for my children. So I think just being like looking at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and saying, like, did I do the best I could do? And if not, forgive myself, but then try the next day. I mean, I think none of us are perfect, but
Yeah.
that's sort of what and I'm a big person. I'm believing the glass is half full, and every day telling yourself when you wake up, put a smile on your face, like it's going to be a good day. Because what you think is sort of what's going to happen. I mean, you
Yeah.
can tell your brain I mean, not to be a Pollyanna, but I mean, just like thinking, I mean, it's not going to be a perfect day, but I'll come in with a good attitude.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
if
you're
you
certainly
wake
not a
up like life
Pollyanna.
sucks,
Yeah.
if you think like life sucks and you wake up that way, it's probably going to suck all day because you'll find the things that make it feel sucky.
Yeah.
Whereas if you
Yeah.
don't, and so I really, really, really tried to find glimmers, and they could be like I saw a flower. I mean, it started out
Yeah.
really stupid, but someone opened a door for me. Someone this. I mean, I would look for just the tiniest little itsy bitsy thing. At the end of the day, I'd think if I could find 10 things that just really little tiny things, it would make me feel like it was a good day. And then they became bigger and bigger. So I
Well,
think
that's
that's
amazing.
how I live.
It's all about, I mean, honestly, if I was going to distill that last thought of yours into a value, I mean, to have so much loss and also have a lot of amazing things that have happened in your life and this amazing career as a woman in a man's world. And I guess it's gratitude. And what you're saying is here you are.
I
And
have a ton of gratitude.
yeah. So,
I
you know
do
what?
a lot of gratitude. I
Well,
mean, I'm very lucky for everything I've had. I have a lot of empathy because of what's happened, but I have a lot of gratitude and a lot of joy and hope. I mean, I really have a hope each day that, things will continue to get better. So I think those are the big things to hang on to. I think whether it be business or personal life or sickness or anything, that's really all we have.
yeah, I agree. Well, you know what? There's not much greater than that. So thanks, Judy, and thanks for just being my first guest. And
Yes,
have a beautiful day.
you too. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.